Rene Godefroy's personal story of struggle exemplifies triumph and courage. Born in a tiny village in Haiti, Rene struggled to survive poverty, malnutrition, and diseases. Unable to speak English, he arrived in America with $5, 2 shirts, and 1 pair of pants. Today, he's the award-winning author of Kick Your Excuses Goodbye and one of America's most sought-after success strategists. His advice on achieving success has inspired thousands to reinvent their lives. Now, it's your turn. Let's welcome the man who reminds us that daily actions is the key to success, Rene Godefroy.
You are watching television. The remote control is in your hand. It's a boring television day. You click, click, click. There's nothing to see on your television until you come to this one channel where they are showing the starving children in Africa. The camera zooms on a little boy who is so isolated, powerless, and condemned. You can count every bone in his body. He looks like an X-ray of a human being. He wobbles and he falls on the floor. He stays there fanning flies of his face. He's starving. He's crying. And sure enough, you are not sure he will make it. By show of hands, how many of you have seen that little boy on your television before? Raise your hands. Sir, the little boy you saw struggling, starving, and crying was me. Although I have never been on one of those commercials before, and come to think of it, I've never met Sally Struthers before. But when I was a little boy, I was just as deprived as the one you saw on your television. Today, I am the luckiest man alive because I am living in the United States of America. The land of which I'm so grateful for and so many take for granted. The land of opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, opportunities are everywhere in this country, but only to those who are willing to go an extra mile. See, I was talking to this little lady, and older lady, and she said, oh, your extra mile concept, I know very much about it. I used to be a PR person for some runners. And you know what one runner told me before? I said, what did he say? She said, he said to me, a champion is a person who would go as far as he or she can go. And when he or she reaches the limit, then he or she would go an extra mile. I want to share my story with you of how I started in life so that you can realize I am the luckiest man alive. It's great to be in this country. I was born in a tiny, isolated village in Haiti. The village was very primitive. There was no running water, no electricity. We didn't have access to medical care. I remember the first time I saw lights was the time I saw the headlights of an old, battered, ancient truck, Voicifan. I got dizzy. I ran away. I used to use my hands to eat. For my toothbrush, I use this index finger to brush my teeth. And believe it or not, today it's like my American Express. I never leave home without it. When I was about 9 months old, my mother left me in the village. She went to Port-au-Prince. Not because Mama was a bad mother, but she left me behind in the hope of finding a better way to provide for me. But right after my mother left, I became very sick. I suffered with many deadly diseases, malnutrition, cholera, and all. When I say, ladies and gentlemen, I was just like the starving child you saw on your television. I was. Remember in 1999, and those of you who remember Y2K, there was this big commotion about it's going to be the end of the world because we will not be able to use our computers. We will not be able to access our bank account. We will not be able to go to the gas station. And one lady was trying to intimidate me. She said, "You don't understand it's going to be the end of the world?" I said, "How so?" She said, "Well, we're not going to be able to go to the bank. We won't have electricity. We won't have a computer. We won't have nothing like that. It's going to be the end of the world." I said, "Wait a minute now, ma'am. I believe it's going to be the end of your world, not mine. You know why? I was born Y2K ready." After my mother left the village, I stayed there, and I was so sick in the village. Every Wednesday, Voici Fan, the old battered truck would come to the village to pick people up and then to drop people off. As a little boy, I remember how I used to run to Mrs. Adrian's place every Wednesday to see if my mother would be on that truck. Sometimes I talk about gratitude. I think it's the strongest emotion you can feel. It is completely impossible, ladies and gentlemen, to be stressed and to be grateful at the same time. And so when I get stuck in traffic today, I see people having all this stress and that much traffic. I always reflect back. Only when I was in the village, if there was one more car other than Voici Fan, perhaps my mother would be on one. I would run to Mrs. Adrian's place, and I'd go around the truck. As a little boy, I would stand there as tall as a tire and begin to ask, "Is my mama on this truck, sir? Excuse me." And I'd tap the side of the truck. "Sir, is my mama on this truck?" "No, your mother is not on this truck." Then I'd run to the other side. I couldn't believe it. I'd begin to tap again. Excuse me, is my mama on this truck, sir? I am sick. I am really sick. I need her." "Your mother is not on this truck." Then I'd walk back, ladies and gentlemen, to face a music I did not want to face, that of the teasing, the name callings. I was about 6 years old when this man came to see Betula. I was on the floor struggling. I had parasites inside of me because I ate breadfruit for breakfast, breadfruit for lunch, and for dinner. It's like a tough potato with a lot of starch. My little weak digestive system could not process all the starch. And so the breadfruit would stay inside of me. They turned into parasites over time. And they were like worms this size. I remember as a little boy, I used to be on the floor struggling and coughing for 2 hours and 3 hours, sometimes almost all day, because one worm is trying to crawl up my throat. And I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I would have nightmares sometimes. I'd pat the floor and walk around and start calling, "Mama, Mama, Mama, come get me." I'd be crying because those parasites would be choking me. And sometimes I would just stretch my arms across the floor, and I'd quietly lay there and go to sleep. And I'd wake up the next day to face the same music, that of the teasing. The people calling me Suyon and Kokobe. Suyon was a man in the village who was crippled. Kokobe in Creole means that you will be crippled. And that man whispered to Betula, the woman I was staying with, he said, "I don't think he's going to survive. He's going to make it." I heard him. I internalized his voice. Ladies and gentlemen, just be very careful what you say to children and in front of children. They will internalize it. And so with all the people calling me names, and that man said that, I began to replay all the same song in my head. The main point I can make here for you, ladies and gentlemen, I believe sometimes we rehearse the hurtful past too much. And because we made a mistake in the past, we began to rehearse it in our head. And because we didn't make the quota, we began to rehearse it in our head. Because there was a rejection, and we began to rehearse the rejection in our head so much, and then it affects us for the next client, for the next prospect, the next person we want to be in front of. Nothing ever happened for me in my life until I made peace with my past. Until I realized that it doesn't matter what anybody says about me. What ultimately matters is what I believe about myself. And the day that I got to that point, everything changed for me. So if there's anything I can say to you is stop rehearsing the past relationships that didn't work, the past deal that went bad. Is begin to rehearse the good stuff in your head. I eventually was 6 and 7 years old when my mother was finally able to afford 50 cents, just 50 cents. And when I went to Mrs. Adrian's, I was looking at the truck. This guy told me, yes, your mother sent the money, and then when I'm going back to Port-au-Prince, I will take you. I cannot tell you how that felt to be with my mother for the first time. I had a brother in the city with my mother and a sister. I did not know my family. I read in psychology today, it is said that children who are not held, touched, and cuddled have a tendency to shrink instead of growing. I was shrinking in the village. When they told me that, I went to tell Betila that I was leaving. She finally conceded and she said, okay, you can go. One of my possessions was my hat. It was the first time I had one. They bought one for me when I was 6.5 years old. I was already climbing coconut trees and mango trees and avocado trees for survival. And the day that Voici Fan came, the first thing I did, I ran and I grabbed my hat and I put my hat on. I sat in front of the door for about 5 hours. For Voici Fan, the car broke down. They couldn't come back. I didn't want to give up. I waited for Voici Fan. I waited. And then I remember when Fan finally came, I got on the truck, I sat there. And we were going through the little river where Aboswell was washing the clothes. And I still can remember her voice. She was singing this song. Pas découragés, âme et moi, soleil à bras levés dans l'avion, mais tout le monde c'est bon Dieu qui crée nous. Oh, oh, oh. Aboswell was singing, just like every woman in the village, they were superstitious. They believe if you sing to a certain spirit, like Agwe would bring water, and Agwe would bring wind for them. But that day she was singing a song that I will never forget. She said, do not ever give up, my friend. Do not ever give up, for the sun is about to rise in your life. If I can give you the same message, do not ever give up. The sun will rise in your life. And so I was doing a little dance in the truck. I was dancing. I was happy I was going to see my mother. And the truck was leaving. I took my hat off and I waved to Aboswell. I waved to the people. All these little kids that came. It was a big phenomenon in the village when a car would pass by. And all the way to Port-au-Prince, all I kept doing is like, hey, I would wave at the people. And I got to Port-au-Prince. It was about noonday. And as I was walking through Port-au-Prince, and I started calling my mother just like I was calling her when I was in the village. Mama, I was going to Montelio. Mama, I had a sack of yams and chickens and potato that I carried for Mama because I was so excited that I was going to see Mama. And I arrived, Mama, my sister was waiting on a curb for me. She came and she wrapped her hands around my leg, and my younger brother came and wraps his hands around my leg. But Mama was preparing something for me, and she heard my voice, and Mama dropped everything. She wrapped her hand. I took my hat off. I just put it on the floor, and I began to see my mother's face for the first time. And I ran into my mother's arms, and she walked in a slow motion, and I pressed myself against her, and Mama began to cry, and I started crying too. You see, I thought Mama was living in Port-au-Prince. I thought she was rich, but she was not rich. Mama was living in a little shack infested with rats and roaches. I remember my sister and my brother, we used to sleep on the floor. there were mornings when the rats and the roaches used to nibble the bottom of my feet. Now you can see why I say I'm the luckiest man alive, because I'm living in America. Ladies and gentlemen, before I go on, the woman who braved the storms and left the village when it was not popular really for anybody, any woman, to leave the village and go somewhere else. But Mama was a brave soul. Just like sometimes you're thinking about leaving your territory to go to a different territory, but it takes a lot of courage, a lot of strength, a lot of internal beliefs, personal beliefs to do that. But that's what Mama did. And she changed history. She changed my whole life. And subsequently, she changed the life for the people in the village. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you, because whenever I'm speaking in town, I have the opportunity. We live here in Atlanta. I'd like to introduce you to the woman, my mother, Yvette Godefroy. Stand up, Mama. Thank you. 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 Mama always cry. You can have a seat, Mama. Mama always cry when I travel with her to this day, and she cries the cries of joy. I was sharing when I first started. I was telling people about the rats and the roaches and the parasites, and her life was be. Mama is a very proud woman, a Haitian woman. She didn't want me to go and tell people. She said, "Why do you have to tell people all our business? Why do you have to tell us we have rats and roaches? Can you just at least just tell them you're from Haiti?" I said, "That's okay, Mama, that's okay. I mean, I'm trying to make a living in America." One day I spoke and I came home. I went to the mailbox and I got the check. I opened it, and when Mama looked at the check, she saw the amount. She said, "Can you tell more stories?" No condition is permanent. Here's the first point, is to stop rehearsing the hurtful past. And the second point I want to make today is to pour honey on the rattlesnakes around you. Yes, when I was a little boy, I learned a powerful metaphor from a man named Raphael. Raphael told me about the bees and the rattlesnakes. He told me that the bees, when they're out, they're always looking for something that is sweet, honey. And it uses the honey, the nectar to create honey. It's good, it's got all the essential vitamins. But the rattlesnakes, when it's out, it's always looking for something that is bitter to create the poison in its tail. Unfortunately, so many of us in our society, we are just like the rattlesnakes. We want to find everything that is bitter. And we take the bitterness and we go to the workplace, and we go to churches, we go to different places of gathering, we begin to inject our poison and destroy people's dreams. A lot of people do that. But the bee is a different story. The bee meets you, doesn't even know you, and the bee already finds all your strengths. The bee is a leader that will reach inside of you and find the best, and then magnify it in front of your face. But the rattlesnake will do different. They'll meet you in 5 minutes. They don't even know you. Say, "Child, please, I don't even like him. I don't even like her." I don't know why I don't like you. Maybe you look like an ex-husband or something. And so how do you deal with the rattlesnake around you? Very simple. Pour honey on the rattlesnake. Find the best inside that rattlesnake, and then bring it out, no matter what they say about you. I remember I was dealing with a guy the guy was just like a big rattlesnake, and he was around to destroy me internally. He said some hurtful things to destroy me, but all I did, I kept going around. Every time they mentioned something about him, I would say something nice. I'd put some honey there. Every time I see him, I just shake his hand. "How are you? Great to see you. I love your shirt. I love the great things you do, and great family." I keep pouring honey onto that rattlesnake until eventually, slowly, he began to evolve as a bee, because I put so much honey into him. That's the best thing to do. And so, speaking of rattlesnakes and bees of honeys, let me share with you, I came to America in 1983, And I came with $5, 2 shirts. I didn't speak any English. English was very confusing for me. Believe it or not, the first 2 words I learned were same thing. And then I don't believe in reinventing success. I believe in modeling success. You know what I did? I began to use those 2 words to the max. I would go to McDonald's. At the time, they didn't have number 2, number 3, no numbers. So I looked at the menu. I'm a Haitian boy. I don't know what's going on, and I couldn't make sense out of the menu. I'd stand right behind the guy in front of me. May I take your order, sir? Guess what I said? Same thing, I got to eat a lot of same thing I didn't like. I was 110 pounds when I came to America. And so I began to use same thing to the max. I would go to, I remember I went to a club by the name of Big Daddy's in Miami. I don't know how many of you are familiar. Anybody from Miami? Here, raise your hands. Miami? Okay, wait. You might remember Big Daddy's, right? Have I seen you there before? No? No, I haven't? Okay. But I went to Big Daddy's. They were serving drinks. I didn't know all the name of the drinks. I didn't know the name. And I remember I was sitting there, and the lady came, and she asked me what would I like to drink. I had a guy sitting next to me, and the guy just ordered. I said, same thing. Then she threw me a curveball. She asked me this. She said, how would you like your drink, sir? On the rocks? I'm thinking. I said, please put mine in a cup. We don't drink on the rocks in my country. And so I left Miami. I was there learning how to speak English. I would write 3 words in my hand every day. At the end of the week, I would review my words. And I came to Atlanta. I got a job. I was a doorman at the Stouffer, the Renaissance Waverly Hotel. Back then, it was the Stouffer, and then later on, they changed it to the Renaissance Waverly Hotel. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to pay real close attention to what I'm about to say. I saw many of you at the hotel. I greeted you. I carried your bags, and some of you might remember me. Anybody here remember me? I remember Oz and a few people. That's right. That I remember seeing at the hotel. I was, just carrying the bags. I had this big smile and this great attitude, but I was a doorman with a dream. I remember when I met Mr. Lance Osborne. And I was standing right by the podium. I just finished unloading his bags. And I told him, sir, I'm a speaker, sir. I want to be a speaker one day. I'm going to be a motivational speaker. I'm going to travel the country. And he was such a king bee. And when Lance saw me saying this to him, he saw the fire in my eyes, in my belly. And he came, he did something that I shall never forget. He touched me. Ladies and gentlemen, you will never understand the power of a touch. Now, I know there is sexual harassment and all kinds of things. You can't touch the people at work. But what if you touch them emotionally? What if you just said something that really make them feel good inside? That's what a bee does. That's what's inspiring others to go. An extra mile is all about. And you know what Lance told me? He told me that you're going to make it. You're going to be a speaker. Yes, I believe it. I can see it in your eyes. And that day he gave me his card. And I took the card. I really believed him. You never know what you tell to somebody in your field as a trainer, as a state sales coordinator, or regional or district. You never know what you might say to somebody, and they will believe you and take the ball and run with it. And I went home, and I put Mr. Osborne's card next to my desk for 10 years. Every day I look at that card. When I was a doorman, when AFLAC would come to have your big conference, I would wait at 11 o'clock when I get off, when they prepare the room for the speaker. What I used to do, I used to come on stage. I'd rehearse this moment that I'm standing in front of you. That's the power of a dream. That's when you have a dream. You know, I was reading the book by Tim, the Aflac Speaker Hall of Fame. I was here Thursday night. I don't know if you're just like me. I'm hungry. As soon as I got the book in the back, I started reading it. I remember a point in the book when he says that you can't turn the clock back, but he says you can wind up the clock and then start ticking again. I remember when I was at the door, that's what I was doing. All the past mistakes, all the things I've done, but I had this dream of becoming a motivational speaker. And so when Mr. Osborne gave me, by the way, the name of the book is These Tips Are Made for Talking. So it's very hard for me, but I learned how to say it. But it's a great book. And then at the time when, a couple of weeks ago, I was at my office and the phone rang and I saw on the caller ID, it says Aflac. Thank God for caller ID. I picked up the phone and I looked at it and the voice said, "This is Lance Osborne." I said, "Mr. Osborne?" I said, "I know you were going to call." He said, "How do you know?" I said, "For 10 years I have your card next to my desk." And I said, "Okay, let me read your card for you so you know I'm telling you the truth. You are a regional sales coordinator." I said, "Your address is 2849 Paces Ferry Road. And I know your email." He said, "You are correct, except everything is wrong on the card now." He said, "Now I am vice president." So I just asked Mr. Osborne for his card. And he says, "Vice president." I said, "Whoa." I said, "When you were a regional sales coordinator, I was really praying for you to be a vice president." Ladies and gentlemen, it's all about taking a risk. It's all about stepping out. When I was a doorman, there was a guy who was my supervisor. He was supposed to be my supervisor, quote unquote leader. But I remember he told me, "You'll never make it as a speaker in America with your English, broken English the way it is." He said, "Who's going to pay you to stand in front of corporate America to speak and say you're from Haiti? You might as well give it up." But I didn't give it up. I had a friend in Florida. I called him. I said to him, "I'm going to write a book in America." And he said, "What makes you think you can write a book? Do you have any credentials behind your name?" I said, "No, I don't have any credentials." He said, "Well, if you had a PhD." I said, "Wait a minute now, buddy. I believe I have a PhD." I said, "Let me tell you right now what my PhD stands for so that you can keep it in your head." I said, "My PhD stands for P is for persistence. H is for hope. D is for dream." See, I believe if I dream, I can accomplish the things that I wanted to accomplish. I said, "First of all, wait a minute. Now let me tell you something. Wasn't it just the other day I was watching television and then Bush, you remember Bush, the senior Bush, the father, when he was in the White House? They had a dog by the name of Millie Bush, and Millie Bush wrote a bestseller in America. I said to myself, if the dog in America can write a book, hey, hey, hey. My challenge to you is to reflect that to you. What it is that you are thinking about? You know, I know some of you are, as a matter of fact, every one of you here are very successful. I know I can sit at your feet and learn so much from you. And you are success. You smell success. You know, I didn't know how to dress when I came to America. I was a doorman. You know how I learned which books to read? When I was parking your cars, and I'd see you have those tapes in the back seat of your car. I was a doorman. I was not a dumb man. That's how I learned which books to read. And I began to buy the books I saw in the back seat of your car. And I didn't know really how to dress. I began to watch you, how you dress. And to this day, I don't know why I have this thing here, but it does look good. I saw Mr. Osborne with it and all the people. And I was speaking one day, and this lady came to me. She said, honey, your little handkerchief looks so neat. Can you tell me how to do it so I can tell my husband? I said, ma'am, cardboard. I said, I bought it from J.C. Penney, cardboard. Just put it there. It look good. I believe. I believe sometimes you ought to fake it until you make it. They say you become what you think, and I say you become what you fake. And people say, well, that's unethical. No, it's not unethical. It's even biblical. It says when you pray, believe and act as if you already receive it. What I'm saying, what do you want in 2000? Maybe today is the day you begin acting as if you already have it. And then step out with full force. Take a risk. You have a perfect brand behind you. You have the duck. And I remember when I first got my little duck at the hotel, and I was playing the sound every night. I was playing it, programming myself for this occasion. Believe me, I saw me on this stage before I came to this stage. And sometimes I'd make noise, Aflac! Aflac! My mother said, are you going crazy? I said, no, I'm rehearsing because one day I'll be speaking for that group. Mama is laughing because she remembers. You know when somebody tells you that something is impossible, you know why they tell you that? It's because it's impossible for them. Therefore, they think it's impossible for you. Don't ever let anybody tell you that. Yeah, as much success you have, you are very successful, but I'm challenging you, there's still probably one area in your life where you need to take some kind of risk. You need to step out. I don't know, maybe you want to move out of your territory and go to a different one with a larger market because they say the market is virgin, there is not enough penetration, and opportunities are everywhere in Aflac. So maybe it's something you want to do, something different, something that everybody is doing. You want to have the audacity to dare to step out, even if you look crazy in front of your co-workers, even if you are not popular. That's what I did. I was so afraid when I left the door to become a doorman. I was just like, I really didn't know I wanted to be a keynote speaker because, you know, I don't have any degrees. I come to speak in front of people like yourself, and I can be very intimidated. But guess what? When I first started speaking, I was very lousy. I was not good at all. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't even look at you, this big audience. I remember a company I spoke for in Atlanta. To this day, I want to take the check back to them. I was not good at all. But Ralph Waldo Emerson said, do the things you fear, and the death of fear is certain. And Einstein said something very significant. He said, the significant problems that you and I are facing today cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created that problem. Okay? And so whatever is going on now, and in 2007, in 2008, and beyond, it's going to take another mindset. So the duck is a great brand. By the way, I wrote the book. And if you go to Barnes & Noble, you say there's a publisher's name, don't worry about it, it's me. It's a fake publishing company. Fake it until you make it. And I wrote a hardcover. I did everything myself. I went to the bookstore, started looking at all the books and see the best. See, I don't believe in reinventing success. I go to the bestsellers list and start looking what they look like. I see they got a little red thing. I said, I better put one here too. My good friend Jeffrey Gitomer wrote the foreword for me. I met Jeffrey Gitomer when I was a doorman, and then he came to the door and he said, I have a tip for you, $5 or a copy of my book. Which one do you want? I said, the book. And he gave me his book, and we became good friends. By the way, anybody would like a copy of my book, we'll have some outside, but if you want, I have 3 here. You can grab one. It's free. These are free, this one here. if you want one. All right. Okay, good. Thank you, ma'am. Sorry, thank you, thank you. Give him a big round of applause. I have some more stuff if you want, some t-shirts. I have 4 t-shirts. The PhD t-shirt. All right, t-shirts. You want a book? You want a book? Wow, great. Well, I like that enthusiasm to run on stage and get it. But my question is, tomorrow, when you go back to the office, what kind of enthusiasm will you get? I know it's not free, you have to work for it, but will you work for it? Will you have the same enthusiasm? See, I asked who wants it, and I bet you there are a lot of people here who wanted it, but they just sat down, they said, yes, I want it. But those who really wanted it bad, just run on stage and grab it from me. So again, give him a big round of applause. I'm going to close. When I first came to this country, all I had was this little suitcase. I had $5, I had 2 shirts, 1 pair of pants. I didn't speak any English. You remember the commercial for Virginia Slim cigarette? I have come from a long way, baby. But I saw opportunities in America. I determined that I was going to take advantage of the opportunities. I was talking to some of you, and you talk about how many opportunities, how great is this company, Aflac. But this is all I had. And from there, I'm living the American dream. I ask you, what do you have available for you? Is it the duck that creates a powerful brand that you can step to anybody's office and confidently make a sale? What is it that you have going for you? Is it the company that is there to support you, give you all the supporting materials that you want? What opportunities do you have in front of you? Perhaps you're not really taking advantage of them. I challenge you to go back and say, if this guy can come to America with $5, he didn't speak English, he had the audacity to step out and start living the American dream. What can I do to change the way things are for my team, to inspire my team to go an extra mile? And I was being interviewed by Selling Power magazine. The lady was asking me, how do you inspire people to do more? I say, it's to be inspired yourself first, and then be a bee, find the strength in them and magnify it. I remember when I stood downtown Atlanta at the building, Russell Building, with my right hand up, getting ready to take the oath to become an American citizen. I had flashback of how life was for me in Haiti as a kid. I began to think, what would life be if I didn't come to this great country of plenty? Perhaps I would have been dead. And I cannot tell you how that felt to me emotionally. God bless a nation that grants its people freedom. For in the end, ladies and gentlemen, it is not knowledge that makes a country great. It is the freedom to use and apply the knowledge. I want to send you home with this. I challenge you to go back and see all the opportunities that you in this room have created, and begin to inspire your team to really see them, and to be a bee, and to encourage them to take advantage of each and every single one of those opportunities. There is money. There are a lot of millionaires in this room, and there are a lot more millionaires that are about to be created. Will you be someone from your team? I challenge you. America, the land of opportunity. I am glad I'm an American. At least I know I'm free.